Good morning. The Mackinac Bridge Authority meeting will now be called to order. Today's date is March 14th, 2025. We have with us today a special guest speaker before we get into the agenda. And at this time, I'd like to call on our Vice Chair, Milliken, to do the introductions. Bill?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's my pleasure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's my pleasure to introduce to you this morning Valerie Marvin. I call her the state historian. She's got a proper title as Director of Education and History at the Michigan State Capitol, which of course is a national landmark. But we invited her here to talk to us this morning. She's a graduate of the University of Michigan and Eastern Michigan University, where she studied historic preservation. She researches, writes about, and speaks frequently on the history of the Michigan State Capitol and early women in Michigan government. She and her husband David live in downtown Lansing at a 1906 home and spend many of their weekends at a rustic cabin near Brevoort Lake. It's our pleasure to welcome Valerie. Good morning. Nice to have you here.
Good morning. Thank you so much for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be out here. Feels a long way from the Capitol building, but of course we're all part of the bigger entity known as the state of Michigan. And I bring you greetings from the Michigan State Capitol Commission, which is the body that oversees our building that I work for, from its chair, Bill Candler, and from our executive director, Rob Blackshaw. Like countless Michiganders, I have never fully outgrown my childhood awe and delight in a trip across the mighty Mackinac Bridge. As a kid, my family made the annual pilgrimage up north to the Straits, and on each trip, I think my mother took it as a challenge to see how many times we could cross the bridge, which she loved to drive across. She did that for the first time when she was 30 years old and has always said that someday when she retires, she wants to get a job where she can just do that every single day. Well, most of us think of the bridge as something that connects Mackinac City to St. Ignace and the Lower Peninsula to the Upper. The bridge is also, to me, something that has a very strong tie to our Capitol building. And I see it in that building every day in different ways. For example, I see it in the ceiling of the House and the Senate chambers. In 1989, during the early days of our Capitol's award-winning restoration, the legislature announced a contest for school children to design a new tile to go into the glass ley lights in the chambers. The only real rule was the tile had to feature something that was iconically Michigan. So naturally, we got in designs that featured automobiles and apple blossoms and lakes and several versions, of course, of the Mackinac Bridge. Ultimately, leaders chose a drawing by a young woman from Traverse City who was named Angie. She and her parents proudly attended the rededication of the Senate for the unveiling of the tile. And for her work, she received a savings bond worth $2,000, which was the same amount of money that our architect, Elijah Myers, won in 1872 when he won the right to design the building. The Mackinac Bridge is also present in what we call the Gallery of the Governors. This is the portrait gallery in the Capitol's Rotunda, where we feature portraits of our 14 most recent governors. One of them, up on the third floor, is Governor G. Menon Williams, who of course chose to include the bridge in his gubernatorial portrait, which was painted by John Coppin, who also did travel art, actually. And I've often thought it a little bit ironic and perhaps sad that across the rotunda from Soapy is Governor Murray Van Wagoner, of course, the only transportation engineer to serve as Michigan's chief executive, and he seems to sort of stare across the rotunda at that bridge. When he was highway commissioner in the 1930s, Van Wagoner was part of a four-man team who was called upon to form what was called the Mackinac Straits Bridge Authority to study the possibility of replacing the state's erratic ferries with either a permanent bridge or a tunnel. That solution was still being discussed at that time. Another governor, of course, who would have loved to build the bridge, though the conditions were not quite right yet, was Chase Osborne, our only Uper chief executive. Osborne served one term, 1911 to 12, and before the state really had the means to complete the project. But he instilled, of course, the love of northern Michigan in his family, and his son George served as one of the original members of the Bridge Authority, along with then former Governor Van Wagoner, Meade Brucker, Prentice Brown, William Cochran, and Elizabeth Briggs Fisher. As with any other state institution, and this is where I'm going to put on my Capitol historian hat very firmly, I believe the bridge was in some ways also born within the walls of our building, because not long after taking office in 1949, Governor Williams appointed an Interpeninsula Communications Commission to study some of the chief economic, communications, and transportations issues posed by the gap between the two peninsulas. Not surprisingly, they came back with a recommendation that the state look again at building a bridge. Another entity meant, of course, more legislation. During the extra session of 1950, the House and State passed, and on June 6th, Governor Williams signed Public Act 21. This 4-section law, which contained only a little over 2 pages of text, got the official ball rolling. It created a 7-member commission made up of 6 gubernatorial appointees and the State Highway Commissioner. The 6 appointees would serve 6-year terms without pay. They would have to provide bonds, and they would hail from both political parties, as this was to be a nonpartisan project. Now, despite the Democratic governor's many disagreements with his Republican majority legislatures, one piece after another continued to fall into place. In 1952, the state gave the new bridge authority what Prentice Brown called, tongue firmly in cheek, a hunting license, i.e., the authority to hunt down or find and obtain the necessary engineers, traffic analyses, legal counsel, and financing for the project. When in 1953, the authority needed more assistance to secure financing, the legislature, after some discussion and debate, tweaked the Bridge Act to make that happen. Eager legislators, state officers, clerks, secretaries, and various governmental support staff watched from Lansing as what most of us now think of simply as the bridge was built. Some followed via newspaper and news stories. Some received occasional official construction reports or financial reports, which landed on their desk. Others probably just leaned into the Capitol gossip mill and asked their friends and family working in the highway department what they might know. At the same time, though, as the bridge was reaching skyward, the Capitol's fates were falling. By the 1950s and 60s, many in Lansing and beyond saw the building as old, arcane, and even unsafe. Who wanted a Victorian pile of bricks, stone, and iron when steel and concrete were available? Maybe Michigan needed a new capital for this new atomic age. Happily, this did not happen, thanks to public outcry, a rather bad recession, and Governor William Milliken. Eventually, our country turned 200, our capital 100, and the state 150. Along the way, history became cool again, and the Capitol building became historic, not just old. Starting in the 1980s, the state invested millions of dollars in its restoration. And at the project's close in the fall of 1992, our Capitol was named a National Historic Landmark, which is the highest honor an American structure can attain. But as you know, the work of caring for a big, complicated, iconic piece of state infrastructure is never, ever done. In 2015, the newly formed Michigan State Capitol Commission kicked off a decade of projects to do everything from tuck-pointing stone to painting the dome, updating the building's infrastructure, fixing cracking plaster and peeling decorative paint. Along the way, we installed a geothermal system to heat and cool the building and built a new underground visitors and event center known as Heritage Hall, which if you have not visited, please come downtown soon. As with any series of big projects, there were naturally a few false starts and bumps along the way. Many people who lived through the 1987 to 92 restoration mused that, didn't we just do this? How long has it been? Does it really need that much work? Inspired by his own summertime jaunts northward, our executive director hit upon what he believed to be the perfect comparison. Think of the Capitol like the Mackinac Bridge, he said. When you get to one end of the paint job, you just go back to the other end and start again, because by that time, it will need it. So on behalf of the Capitol Commission and staff, I thank you for that parallel. Everyone who hears it pauses for a moment, smiles, and nods their head. Yep, that makes sense. As does the fact that we can never, ever stop caring for these great icons of our state. Places like our Capitol and our beloved bridge are a big part of what make Michigan so special. I will simply close today by thanking you for the work you do. Serving as stewards of a big, complicated, expensive state symbol can be difficult, sometimes frustrating, and as we all know, everyone has opinions about these things and doubtlessly shares them with you since they know you serve on its leadership team. But at the end of the day, that's of course a good thing because it means that people care about what you care for and that they believe you have the power and you will do right by it. So again, thank you for your work. And next time someone asks you if that project on the bridge will ever be done, please feel free to tell them that it's a lot like the Capitol. There's always something else coming. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Valerie. Thank you for tying us so closely into the state's history. We appreciate your coming out here, and it's a great way to begin our quarterly meeting. Thank you.
Thank you as well, Valerie. Excellent, excellent report. Okay, members of the authority, we have the agenda in front of you. A motion would be in order to accept the agenda as presented.
I'll make a motion.
Support?
It's been moved and supported to accept the agenda as presented. Is there any discussion on the motion? Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the agenda signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Anyone from the public wishing to address the Mackinac Bridge Authority? Anyone from the public? Hearing none, we'll move right down to the approval of minutes. As we've done in the past, we will have two different motions. First, we'll start with the official Mackinac Bridge Authority meetings of the 8th and the closed session on the 8th, as well as the closed session for the Tolls, Fees, and Classification Committee report. A motion would be in order to accept those minutes.
I so move, Mr. Chair.
It's been moved and supported.
Second.
It's been moved and supported that the minutes be approved as presented. Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you. Or opposed? Motion carried. And the Mackinac Bridge Authority will accept the minutes from the committee meetings of the Tolls, Fees, and Classification, Finance Committee, the Legislative Committee as well. Do I hear a motion?
So moved?
It's been moved and supported to accept the meetings of the committee meetings as presented. Any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you very much. Under old business, Matthew, it will be the 2024-2025 paving project update.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I'm here to just briefly present on the Mackinac Bridge Approach Span Rehab and maintenance, overall maintenance update. So for our rehabilitation project, we are on schedule to put the bridge into two-way traffic again this spring, similar to what we saw last spring. So these are just some dates given to us by the contractor. Now, they are tentative based on weather. We all know what the weather in the Straits of Mackinac can bring and unknown, but so as of right now, the plan to enter stage 2 traffic configuration, so that would be closing the southbound lanes and then switching traffic over to the northbound lanes, one lane open in each direction, would start on March 24th of this year, and that would last approximately about a month into the end of April. And at that time, we would switch traffic over to the traffic configuration that we saw last summer, so working on the northbound lanes again, and then opening the southbound lanes to traffic. And that would last up until Memorial Day, and we are on schedule to open the bridge back up by Memorial Day. So, and then just to address the stage 2 coming before the stage 1. So stage 1 was all the work that was scheduled to be performed last year, and then stage 2 was the work that's scheduled to be performed this year. Last year, we were not able to address the modular joint replacement at Pier 34, so that work will be completed this year, and that's why we're going back into stage 1. And then I guess to also touch on last year's work, I know at the last board meeting I presented on kind of the state of tying a bow around last year that we did. The contractor filed a claim for extension of time, and we did go to the region review on that on December 13th of last year, and ultimately the decision was made by the Superior Region that the contractor was entitled to a longer extension of time than what was granted by the MBA. This extension of time put the contractor past the date that the bridge was fully open to traffic, so that in the end, no liquidated damages should have been assessed. So we're in the process of reimbursing the contractor for those liquidated damages that we withheld. And I will say and share that as the MBA, we are disappointed with this result, but we respect the region's decision. And we had assistance from the AG's office, from our consultant and the engineers on staff. So we still stand by our initial decision, but we respect the decision made by the region. And we're, like I said, the silver lining might be we tied a bow on it. It's all under water under the bridge, pun intended. But we're looking to this spring and to complete the project and open it back up for summer traffic. So, and then just to highlight the main objective of this project for this spring is to replace the joint at Pier 34 with a sealed modular joint that compared to the current finger joints that are on the bridge, which allow water down and to hit the superstructure. A sealed modular joint would keep the water off the superstructure, so preserving the bridge for longer, which is ideal. And this is the proposed joint design for the ultimate deck replacement. So it'll be great to get a modular joint on the bridge to see how it performs and get our maintenance staff used to taking care of it. And it's been planned to put a modular joint on the bridge for many years, so I'm excited to finally get one. So, and then also this spring we will be sealing the anchor piers and repaving them, and along with the cable bends, just to keep water out. Any questions?
If I might. With respect to that modular joint, is it very similar to modular joints that MDOT's used on other bridge structures? Are you aware?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay,
It might be a little bigger,
Yep.
but
I assume so. I just
Yeah.
wanted to make sure we had some history with it and that there was positive results.
right. Yeah, for sure.
Thank you.
And this will be done with the contractors that we had in place last year.
Correct,
To
yep.
finish the
Same
same
contractors and
project,
the
right?
contract-
It's actually the same contract, isn't it?
Yeah. Yep. Same
Continuation.
contract. It was a 2-year contract, and the contractor was on site this week. They're planning to be on site next week, and we're helping them out any way we can to get traffic closed and to allow them to start work. So, yeah.
When you do that traffic shift, you said it would be Monday the March 24th. So would that like start shortly after midnight on the 23rd in order to complete the shift for when the traffic gets busy? I was always curious about that.
Yeah, last year we completed the shift in late afternoon, but we don't do it in the middle of the night. This year, since it's scheduled for a Monday, I could see it happening in the middle of the day, maybe late morning, early afternoon when we have our full crew size there, just maximum amount of people to help out with whatever we need them to
Interesting.
do. So,
Any other questions from the authority? Thank you, Matthew.
okay.
Excellent report. You want to continue with?
Yeah, so I also wanted to give an update on a new project we're starting. I know yesterday the board voted on a budget amendment to replace the DMS signs on the toll canopy. So the objective of this project is to replace those toll signs in kind with minor improvements to account for the future needs and to come up to current standards of highway signage. So we were able to select a design consultant, which will be AECom, and Kim and I have started working with them to kind of express our needs and brainstorm, like I said, anything we can try to plan for in the future, traffic trends, whatnot. So we're in the very early stages of this project, but and we are hoping to get this let this summer for the construction next summer. So we're on track for that project. Any questions on that, or? Okay, hearing none, I will move on to just to talk about the annual inspection that was performed last summer. So the 67th annual inspection was performed by Parsons, and they were on site from July 8th to the 19th, and they reported that no significant changes happened to the bridge. And this inspection also included a non-redundant steel tension member inspection, which you can see on the right picture of just getting up close and personal to all the important trusses on the bridge. Any questions on that? The full inspection will, because it's still in draft form, will be presented to you at the summer board meeting. But I just wanted to give you an update on that as well. So
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Any questions?
okay, thank you.
Thank you, Matthew. Well, we got some really good news here. We're halfway home, Kim. Senate Bill 3071, I'm sorry.
Yeah, some good news related to this Senate Bill 71, which defines the Mackinac Bridge as a key facility. As you know, we've been working on that for quite a while now, and in this session, Senator DeMoose put it forth to the committee that handles public safety, civil rights, judiciary, and public safety. And it sailed right through that committee. You can see us giving testimony there in that hearing. And just yesterday, they had a vote. They had a vote in the full Senate, and you can see all the green there on the chart.
Yeah.
One excused absence, but everybody else was a yes vote, so we were very happy to see that sail through in time for us to celebrate here at our meeting today. So now this will go on to the House Transportation Committee. That's the next step there. So we'll be back down testifying for that, I believe. So we hope it continues its pathway through the legislature and onto the governor's desk.
Thank you very much. It's very, very good news. I know we're halfway there, but that was always the toughest half, it seems like.
Yep, we made it through there. And I will add that, Mr. Chairman, I saw that you did an interview yesterday for the transportation talks with Jeff Cranston. Mm-hmm. You and Senator DeMoose both did an interview on that about this bill. So that's worth listening to. I listened to it this morning, so thank you for doing that.
Well, thank you. And there's a lot of thank yous in order. I first want to thank the legislative committee that worked on this, our Vice Chair Bill Milliken and member Marty Fiante, tremendous help. And of course, the director and his staff, Mark, they all did a wonderful, wonderful job. And all your time, Kim, as well. So we're halfway home. We're very confident we'll stay focused and get into the house and work on it from there. But thank you very much for all your good work.
You're
Thank you.
welcome.
Okay, is there any questions about Senate Bill 71? Hearing none, we'll jump right into new business. We have the 2025 special events. Mike, assuming that's you?
Good morning, everybody. I just wanted to touch base this morning on the upcoming 2025 special events. As you see on the screen, we have 9 events scheduled for this upcoming season. We typically have 11. 2 I just want to mention, the annual Antique Auto Show, they typically no longer participate in crossing the bridge, although that's a major event in the area. The other one, we typically have an early Jeep crossing that is paused due to our upcoming construction project. So that leaves us with remaining 9 events. I think you've seen in your package a correspondence letter that Kim and I worked directly with the St. Agnes Visitors Bureau. They have 5 of these 9 events that I work closely with Kim and Quincy on organizing those. The other 4 events are individual groups, Mackinac City Chamber, Mackinac City Visitors Bureau, the Owasso Tractor Club, and then, of course, our in-house event of the annual Bridge Walk. We have an insurance requirement, which you're familiar with. We're working closely with Quincy. Her policy renews in April. So at that time, we'll be approving those permits. We work closely again with Kim and Quincy, get everything in place and get those approvals. So there'll be more movement on that soon. The other thing I wanted to mention, just a couple of events. Just this week, I met with the group from Grand Rapids that sponsors the Minis on the Mac. That's a biannual event every 2 years. The event coordinators they're surprised at the growth of this event. It's really, they said they originally thought it would just be a small group doing some traveling and maybe stopping and having lunch together, and it's really evolved. They're anticipating about 1,200 cars this year. It's a large, longer event. We had a good, productive meeting with them on their travel routes and how MDOT projects in the area are going to affect their routes and what they can expect. We worked closely with the TSC out of Newberry, which was very helpful. Matthew also joined me at that meeting. He was able to provide updates on the projects in the area, projects on the bridge, and how that would impact this event, because it is such a large group. So things are moving forward. They've been very good to work with. I think it'll be a fun weekend. They typically spend almost a week in the area. You'll see those Mini Coopers in large numbers. The other event, which is an annual event, this event was recently approved by Kim and I. The Antique Tractor Parade is another large event. Takes quite a while. They don't move real fast. I work closely with Bob from the Owasso Tractor Club. They actually put a cap on this event of 1,500 tractors. Wow. They could easily exceed that. There's tremendous interest, a lot of repeat participants. This event, for 1,500 tractors, it's a northbound only event, but it typically takes 3 to 4 hours. Yeah. So we always work as a group and mindful of the public that has to travel at that same time. So we try to work with both groups, get the public moving efficiently, at the same time accommodating such a large, slow-moving event. So we're looking forward to a productive and positive upcoming season. A lot of these are repeat events, and the common denominator these groups have is they want it to include the bridge crossing. Whether it's coordinated on the south side or the north side, if the bridge crossing's not included, the interest drops. So it's quite a compliment to the Bridge Authority, and I'm happy and proud to participate and work on these projects. They have a positive impact to the surrounding communities, and with that being said, any questions on the upcoming 2025 events?
Any questions from the board? I just have a brief comment that it's so encouraging to see these numbers coming up the way they are, and you know what it means, not just for the bridge, but for the communities on both sides of the strait, the economic impact that draws those people to the area to help out the local businesses, and it's just a wonderful thing. And I know that it takes a lot of time with you and Kim both, and all the planning, the meetings, and making sure all the documentation's in order. But thank you again for the great job that you folks.
Well, thank you, Shardy. I appreciate that. We enjoy doing it, and I think it's a positive for everybody involved.
It certainly is.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we have the committee reports up next. If there's no further questions, Mike? I'll first call on our tolls, fees, and classification chair, Caroline Cheeseman. First of all, Caroline, let me say it's good to see you feeling better.
Thank you.
Go ahead, please proceed.
We had our last meeting on January 30th, and we had two topics we were looking at for that meeting. One was something that came up, I believe, at our last board meeting, to review the proposal from local law enforcement for a reduced, inclusive, special rate for their law enforcement vehicles crossing. And it was Mackinac City, the City of St. Ignace, and the Mackinac County Sheriff's Department. We looked at the usage. The usage didn't seem to be real high for any of those. And we also looked at the statute and what the statute says for the passage of emergency vehicles, and that's section 254.322. And after further review, we decided to, we suggest that we retain the status quo on that and not give them any special rate. Didn't feel that it warranted any change from what we're currently doing. The second thing we looked at was just an update on implementing the credit card fees. And there was some delay in the contract. In our wording, we used convenience fee, and a convenience fee is for the private sector and for the government sector. And there was some question on whether or not the government side applies to us, but it needs to be called a service fee or a processing fee. So that still hadn't been signed at the time of that meeting. And what we decided to do, well, we checked with Kathleen, and Kathleen said that we are definitely a government entity. So we need to work with the government side of the contract. And in order to do that, Kim suggested we have a motion to change the wording of that from the convenience fee to the service or processing fee. And in addition to that, the implementation of this will be about $100,000. And she also suggested a budget amendment for that, which I believe was approved at the Finance Committee yesterday. So with that in mind, we suggest that we change the wording in our proposal to be a processing or service fee from a convenience fee. And that was pretty much what we discussed in those meetings.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair. We have two issues here, if you don't mind. I'd like to be able to handle them separately through two different motions. So if there's no objections, if I understand the request coming from the law enforcement agencies, it was denied.
Yes.
Okay. I think it's only appropriate that the full board act on this through a motion. So a motion would be in order to deny the request from the law enforcement agencies.
I so move that we deny the request from the law enforcement agencies.
Is there support to the motion?
I'll support.
Okay, it's been moved and supported that the request from the law enforcement agency about a special toll rate be denied. Is there any further questions on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Caroline, if you would like to put a motion together about the convenience fees,
Okay.
that would be in order at this time.
I move that we change the wording of our proposal for the implementation of the credit card fees from a convenience fee to a service/processing fee, consistent with the other state agencies.
Thank you.
Support.
It's been moved, supported. Is there any discussion on the motion? Any discussion? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. And I want to take just a second to thank you, Caroline, Marty, and Barbara. You spent a lot of time on this along with Kim and Cammie, the staff. Excellent job in bringing it back into line to where it should be. So thank all of you. Great work. So now we'll hear from our Chair of the Finance Committee, Vice Chair Milliken.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Finance Committee convened yesterday afternoon with Member Musser and in Member Cheeseman's absence, Member Fitanti. And we reviewed the following pieces. We had an audit report from Plant Moran yesterday that was presented by Gene Young and Allison Schaefer. And the committee accepted that audit report. Lon Chen from the Michigan Department of Treasury and her colleagues were on hand, and they presented an investment update and economic report for us. Mike Booby came before the committee and with a traffic and revenue report, and reported that for the fiscal year, traffic was up 2.3% higher than the previous year in fiscal year 23. Revenues for the year were $39.5 million, $24 million of which was in traffic revenue. And the overall revenue was short by about 2%, $490,000 from budget. We had a fiscal year business plan for 2026 that Cammie reported on for us. It was discussed, and the committee accepted that report to bring it forward. There were budget amendments, and including a $120,000 offset account that was created to offset the credit card fees that we heard discussed here. And public sector consultants appeared before the committee yesterday. They have been commissioned by the authority to do a Mackinac Bridge economic contribution analysis, the results of which will be forthcoming in probably June of this year. But we had an interim report with a PowerPoint presentation to show us the kind of data that they are collecting on what the economic impact of the Mackinac Bridge walk is, and the presence of the Mackinac Bridge in the Straits area economy. So we look forward with great interest to see what the results of that report will be. And Mr. Chairman, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Excellent report. You've all heard the report of our finance chair. What's the authority's pleasure? A motion to be in order would be to accept the financial report as presented, including the budget amendments in particular.
As chair, may I so move, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, you may.
I so move.
Support.
It's been moved and supported that we accept the financial report as presented. Is there any discussion on the motion? Any discussion? Kim, would you call roll on a financial matter, please?
Chairman Gleason?
Yes.
Director Weaver?
Yes.
Member Aaron's?
Yes.
Vice Chair Milliken?
Yes.
Member Fratanti?
Yes.
Member Musser?
Yes.
Member Cheeseman?
Yes.
And like always, the Financial Committee has a lot of responsibility here, and Member Musser and Milliken and Cheeseman do a great job. Thank you. Well, we're moving through this meeting rather well. Number 8, 2025 meeting schedule. Open up your calendars. I see we've already booked in 2 of them, correct, Kim? Yes. Is it still work for everybody for the July meeting on Mackinac Island, the 8th and 9th, as well as the November meeting in St. Ignace on the 6th and the 7th? Hearing none, we'll keep them. Oh, I'm sorry, Director.
Mr. Chair, just to let you know, and it shouldn't be a problem, but the State Transportation Commission has a meeting on November 6th now as well. So I would likely attend that, and then I'll head up
Okay,
to
very
the,
good.
to the finance and the
Well, if
rest of
not,
the
we'd
meetings.
have to move the meeting to accommodate you, sir.
No.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other questions or concerns about the meeting schedule for 2025? Okay, we'll etch that in stone, and we'll make those 2 dates happen. Any other business to come before the authority? Any other business? Hearing none, anyone from the public wishing to address the Mackinac Bridge Authority? Hearing none, I have just one brief well wishes. I hope everybody has a grand day Monday. Enjoy your St. Patty's Day. So if there's no other business to come before the authority, a motion would be in order to adjourn.
I move adjournment, Mr. Chair.
Is there support to the motion?
Support.
It's been moved and supported that the Mackinac Bridge Authority be adjourned. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Great meeting.